Good morning. For those that don't know me, I'm Todd Schwartz, the Executive Vice President and Chief Academic Officer. And at the risk of sounding redundant, good morning. Thank you. I appreciate that. And welcome to 2019. 2019. The year before 2020. 2019 reminds me a little of 1999. 1999 was like the pinky toe of time. Now, Seinfeld got a few laughs over that one, but it had no consequence of its own. It was just the year we spent in anticipation of the millennium, 2000. 1999 was marginalized. It sounded more like a sale price than a year. Only 1999. I can't recall one thing that happened in 1999, but then I don't remember anything that happened in 2000 either. But 2019, like 1999, is definitely a year of anticipation. And that's not just about 2020. So I've been looking back, which I tend to think is a good thing from time to time. What I'm addressing this morning will focus a bit on the past and the present, while President Fox will be more forward-looking in his remarks. By the way, we are celebrating today the 5th anniversary of the Fox administration. In the past 5 years, CSI, and when I say CSI, what I really mean is the collective, us. In the past 5 years, we've seen dramatic change. We all look back through different lenses, I'm sure, but when I consider what has transpired, I simultaneously see monumental achievements, quiet progress, painstakingly slow improvements, and as well as some disappointments. Our campus environment has changed, and our student makeup has changed. Well over half of our students and their teachers aren't even here. This is disconcerting and disorienting. It's not the way we have traditionally imagined college, but the days of the quaint campus-centric student experience for most of our students are over. Did anyone notice that junior high schools disappeared over the past 10 to 15 years in favor of middle schools? Whether we like it or not, the concept of the junior college has gone the way of the junior high schools, who were replaced by middle schools. While we have embraced the term early college, personally, I think the better term is middle college. The line between secondary and post-secondary education has blurred, and this is not a bad thing. It's an opportunity. And it is not lost on me that this has simultaneously occurred while CSI has taken the lead in Idaho to deliver the community college baccalaureate. Please, see what's happening here. The walls are coming down and we are presented with a new world in which to work. We are simultaneously extending our operation into the secondary universe and the baccalaureate universe. Over the past 5 years, I've tried my best to communicate to all of you the priorities for progress at CSI. As I've looked back and reviewed some of these messages, I was struck by what I felt were some obvious themes and which I believe have been our commitments over the last 5 years. To our students and their success, to each other, to challenge our beliefs and our notions, and to improvement. Of these 4 commitments, I'll only be addressing 3 this morning. President Fox will discuss our commitments to each other and the Great Colleges to Workforce survey in a bit. By the way, true to Jeff's origins here, I believe that he is lobbying that entity to change the titles so they aren't ending in a preposition. Great colleges for which to work, or something like that. At any rate, this morning, we have things to celebrate. I've asked all of you repeatedly for one thing in particular to improve. Very simply, to just get better. At one point, I think I quoted a car company's ad campaign. The relentless pursuit of perfection. I love that phrase. Don't misunderstand the desire to improve, because I believe it to be an absolute fact that CSI is one of the finest community colleges in the country. Remember, CSI is us. We take a backseat to no one when it comes to our commitment to those we serve. It is time we let that cat out of the bag, and we intend to. Let's celebrate this. Our student satisfaction rate is the highest it's been in 4 years. But are we satisfied with who we are today? My hope is that none of you are, and that the collective us never will be. We have a great relationship with the local media, and I wanted to call out someone in particular this morning who covers CSI as part of her education beat. I'm not sure if she's here this morning. Julie Wooten-Greener. As long as I can remember, Julie has appropriately, accurately, and diligently reported on the various activities of CSI for the Times News. And so back in October, I was a little disappointed to see this headline. Now, this is not a criticism of Julie or the Times News at all, but an example of how things aren't always what they appear to be. If this were the sole source of information for someone, they would likely miss out on a few key facts. To be clear, our enrollment is not dropping. In 2018, we had a record number of students, well over 12,000, not including some of our ancillary and value-added activities like workforce training. For those that are coming to campus, however, we are seeing an obvious decline. But when we take a closer look, the decline is not within the so-called go-on population of high school graduates, but within the adult population, the working age population, and less than 3% of them aren't working right now. We should also note that while our on-campus population has declined, the Mini-Caja Center is flourishing with tremendous growth. In fact, all of our off-campus centers are reinventing themselves. What are we doing here? There's other good news we're celebrating. In spite of the traditional student enrollment decline, our degree and certificate production has remained relatively unchanged, and the rate at which we graduate students per enrollments has been on the rise. Let me emphasize this. Due to your efforts, due to your commitment to students, due to your understanding of the necessity of student success, we are making improvement. A point of emphasis for Complete College America and the State Board of Education is the encouragement of students to take as many credits as they can manage and promote full-time, or more accurately, on-time participation. The State Board's initiative has a name. It's called Think 30. In other words, if possible, a student should try to complete 30 credits in at least one of their academic years because it has a dramatic, indisputable impact on completion. We're making progress here as well. The percentage of students completing 30 credits in their first year not only is increasing, we are exceeding the performance of our peer institutions. While I'm not a fan of this particular measure, since it is a small percentage of our students, only those that are first-time full-time, it is a measure used throughout higher education, something called the IPEDS on-time graduation rate. We've improved 7 percentage points, which may not seem huge over the last 4 years, but that's a 35% increase, and that's something to celebrate as well. Earlier I mentioned VFA, or the Voluntary Framework for Accountability, which is a performance measuring system for community colleges. In our most recent report, in nearly every metric, CSI is exceeding the national VFA cohort performance. Here's an example, the percentage of students completing their math and English in the first year. And I realize this is hard to read, but the blue line is us, and if you can see the orange line, that's all other VFA colleges. As good as we are getting better. So while the news isn't always good, our progress is worth celebrating. All these examples demonstrate our commitment to excellence at CSI, and that's a story that needs to be told over and over and over. Telling that story is something you can do. We can do. We are CSI. We're all in this together. Everyone is an educator. But this is all just a history lesson, and 2019 and beyond is here and now. We can rest on our laurels, or we can continue to improve to guide us into that bright future. It's my pleasure to welcome the second most seasoned college president in Idaho, Dr. Jeff Fox.
Good morning. The second most seasoned, that should tell you something about how this job really works in Idaho. They're falling away like... Before I begin my address, we're going to do the P.A.C.E Employee of the Year Awards. And so get ready. Our first award winner for classified staff has been here for 28 years. And comments about her, and if you've had a chance to work with her, you know that she is exemplifying who CSI is. Friendly, efficient, a bedrock to her department, someone who gets things done and in an open and outright manner. It's my pleasure to announce Terry Woodland as Classified Employee of the Year. Is Terry? There you are.
This was a surprise. I'm shocked. But it has been a pleasure to work here for 28 years and get to know all of you. Thank you.
Professional Staff Award goes to someone who is energetic, focused, and makes a huge difference in the community she serves. Had not have been here that long, but has represented some positive changes in our culture in working with Hispanic initiatives. Everywhere I go in the community, I see Maritza Vega front and center. Please help me congratulate Maritza Vega, Professional Employee of the Year.
Man, I feel so grateful. I've never gotten an award like this. I really like CSI. It has a lot to offer to our community, and all of the ideas that I have to help the community and the Hispanic community, it's never being quieted, and I just want to thank everyone that has supported a lot of my ideas. Thank you.
Both Terry and Maritza represent, I think, what is best at CSI, that commitment to service, a commitment to community, a commitment to each other. And they make a difference, a very positive difference. So congratulations again to Terry and Maritza. So, Happy New Year. Welcome to Spring 2019. I would like to take a second here to thank some others who work very hard and don't often get the accolades I think they deserve. I don't know how many of our Board of Trustees are here. I see Anna Scholes up there. Anybody else? Well, Anna, you can take the accolades for everybody. Chair Jan Mitleider, Vice Chair Laird Stone, Secretary Jack Nelson, and new trustees Anna Scholes and Scott McClure are highly paid professionals who volunteer their time to work at CSI. And they spend a lot of time preparing, reading through board materials, exemplifying what is best about CSI. They carry that message that Todd was talking about to the community. If you get asked questions about CSI, what's going on with the basketball team or something like that, you can imagine they get 100-fold questions in the vegetable aisle at Smith's or something like that. They are tireless advocates for the community college, and I appreciate their service. Let's give them a hand. As an example, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be having Legislative Week in Boise at the Capitol. And the Board of Trustees, as a group, will go and probably appear at the JFAC, the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee hearing on Monday. And then they'll meet with their other 3 community college boards of trustees to talk about matters of boards. Again, that's volunteer time that they're taking from their busy schedules to travel on behalf of the college. Since I have most of you here, how many people thought this was next week? Well, if you did, you're not here, obviously. But and my wife back there, yeah, she thought it was next week. Since I have most of you here, I'd like to recognize one other person here because she's shy and won't let me do it any other way. You know that Kathy Deal is retiring at the end of this month. If you didn't, she is, and her last day will be the 31st. We'll have a small celebration in the board office at that time, and that'll be announced. But for 18 years, or 17 years, Kathy has been executive administrative assistant to 4 presidents, starting with Jerry Meyerhofer, and has done an outstanding job of being the public face of CSI in that office. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work she does and all the care and feeding she provides me, certainly, and the other presidents. She told me she's retiring because she does want to train another one of us. That's probably true, but she deals with everybody who comes in that office, from legislators to farmers to students to faculty and staff, happy people, sad people, angry people. She directs them to the right place. She helps them get an answer. She helps me a great deal, and always with a smile. Kathy, thank you. I know I'm in trouble. And since I'm in trouble, I can announce, many of you know that Ginger Nukaya will be taking Kathy's place, and I'm excited to work with Ginger. I'm also in trouble from the athletic department, apparently. I'll cover 3 things today. One is a little update on our legislative work coming up. The second is some broad comments about the great colleges in which to work. 4. And then finally, some thoughts about the future. Last week, Brad Little was sworn in as Idaho's 33rd governor in a ceremony on the steps of the state capitol. It was cold. First Lady Teresa Little gave a moving introduction in which she recounted the generations of family that lived and worked in the Emmett area, and the governor spoke briefly about key topics, among them support for education. Education is the single largest budget allocation in Idaho. And this year, the state will work to fulfill its multi-year commitment to K-12 salaries and support, and we hope higher education will benefit as well. At this point, however, revenue is down, off from projections, and I've heard that revenues from April, which is the largest gathering month because of tax receipts, should be down also. So we're concerned, and legislators are concerned, and as a consequence, we're expecting, I think, as higher education across the board, for minimal to flat funding, especially in this transition year. We'll know more this afternoon. At 1 o'clock, Governor Little will be giving his State of the State address. I hope you can tune into that if you're available. This year, the legislature has changed a little bit, and the college lost some good friends. The Venerable Maxine Bell retired from decades of public service in the House of Representatives, and notably as chair of the Joint Finance and Appropriations, co-chair of the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee. Lori Likely won the election for Maxine's seat in District 25, but Lori's not going to be co-chair of JFAC. Representative Steve Hartkin also retired, and Linda Wright Hartkin replaces Steve in District 24. Steve Miller lost his seat to Muffy Davis in District 26. In other key areas, Scott Bedke remains the Speaker of the House. Representative Lance Clow was appointed to the chair of the House Education Committee. With the departures of co-chairs Sean Keogh and Maxine Bell, JFAC leadership and makeup has shifted. New co-chairs are Senator Steve Baer from Blackfoot, that's District 31, and Representative Rick Youngblood from District 12 in Nampa. The only Magic Valley legislators on JFAC this year are Clark Coffin and Sally Toon, both good friends of the college. JFAC makeup's important because that's the funding arm of the legislature. Remember, the governor recommends, the legislature funds, and so it's very important that we have some advocates on the Joint Finance and Appropriation Committee, and we do. I'm also pleased that Lance Clow is now chair of the House Education Committee. That's another friend to the college, and to community college in particular. In the last Friday forum of last semester, I discussed the evolution of funding requests this year, noting the uncertainty of which direction the governor and the legislature might take. I've talked a lot about outcome-based funding as a proposed model that the state has been working on. And I've talked about the old model of enrollment workload adjustment, or EWA. And we don't know if it's going to be one or the other, or perhaps a hybrid. All higher education institutions are prepared to address both of these when the presidents appear individually before JFAC later this month. And if there's a chance the governor and the legislature offer enrollment workload adjustment, we're prepared to forward these requests for our line items, which total just over $1 million. I've mentioned these before, but I'd like to bring them up again so you'll have an understanding of where we're headed when we go to the legislature. A program out of the CIE, Weekend College, is a program for working adults and high school students who typically can't make it to regular scheduled college classes. It's outside the traditional academic model. This program enables students to complete a transfer degree or a certificate within 2 years of enrollment. This request seeks ongoing funding for full-time professional tutors to provide academic support and operating funds to support extended weekend hours. For the third year in a row, we're asking for IT personnel and software platform support. CSI and every other institution in this state faces substantial challenges with non-existent or inadequate software tools, antiquated infrastructure, and obsolete systems that require a lot of maintenance and manual intervention. I'm just going to stop here and ask you to give IT a big hand. You know, when Todd mentioned our grounds and maintenance crew out there today sweeping the snow off the walks and getting some safety, I don't know what you put on there to dry up the moisture. IT does that, I suppose, in a metaphorical, virtual way. They spend a lot of times when something breaks, they're here 24/7, Sunday nights, Saturday mornings, it doesn't matter when. Just the regular maintenance, of course, but also the break-fix issues that occur. And they're often working behind the scenes, so you don't see them as much, but they do an awful lot of work for us. So to tackle these challenges, CSI seeks funding support to build a foundation to design efficient processes and workflows, connect students and employees to the right data quickly and securely, and to achieve greater stability with its infrastructure. It's a mountain to climb. The details of this line item include requests for hardware, software, business processes, highly skilled personnel, and it accounts for nearly 75% of our ask this year. The College of Southern Idaho is well positioned this year to apply for and receive the U.S. Department of Education's Hispanic Serving Institution designation in the near future. And the last line item is support for CSI's Emerging Hispanic Serving Institution status. This request is to expand and sustain services and programming critical to our high-impact, high-touch recruitment of Hispanic residents. This request focuses on our service area, institutionalizes multicultural student affairs coordinator from a Title III grant and into a permanent position, and develops a career and technical education bilingual healthcare CNA program. You can go back not too many years and find that we are in single digits representing our population demographics for Hispanic residents in our Magic Valley region. We're at 24.1% this last fall. 25% is the magic number. To become a Hispanic serving institution with that designation allows us access to a lot more federal program funds and opportunities, and so we're excited to get to that point. More importantly than the designation is the fact that we're actually serving the demographic of the Magic Valley. Again, I've mentioned last year that the Jerome High School, for the first time in its history, has over 50% Hispanic students. Our communities are looking between 20 and 30, over 35% some places, Hispanic population and residents throughout the Magic Valley, which is our 8-county service region. I'm so proud to be a part of the institution where faculty, staff, administration work together for improvement. I really am. And I applaud the faculty and staff of the Great Colleges to Work For Task Force, whose 47 members worked throughout the fall to generate a report focusing on key areas of communication, access, shared governance, planning, and employment relations and culture. Their efforts reflect a sincerity and hope for ongoing growth together. And as we look at the results, we have a roadmap to guide short, medium, and long-term initiatives in those key areas. Some can be addressed immediately, while others will take a longer glide path into the future. I'm just going to say the task force. So, information will be available on the Institutional Effectiveness website to all employees, hopefully within a few days. And this morning I'll provide some highlights of the task force efforts. So in the areas of communication, the task force addressed moving to a more formalized college-wide system for information and process in key areas of regular and timely messaging and communication, consistency, access, internal and external messaging protocol, and CSI website information accuracy and currency. Some of these are confounded by our troubles with IT as we struggle to find qualified personnel, software platforms, and so on. And we'll be working on some of those. But others are easily fixable and designed to address some of our communication concerns and processes. Closely connected with communication is the area of access. And the task force calls for more available access to all levels of administration, as well as more informal visits to employee workspace from administration. So if you see me and Todd wandering around, it's not a bad thing. No laughter. I don't know, Todd. In general, the recommendation is for increased opportunities for collegial interaction for all of us. The shared governance section offers some excellent suggestions for communication improvements and broad inclusion in processes, including developing a culture across campus to show each of us how we fit into the institution, how we do our jobs, how we connect with each other, and how we share information. The planning segment suggested clear communication concerning mid- and long-range planning, not just the strategic planning, which falls into Chris's area, but more immediate activities as well. There are also suggestions for specific improvements in emergency response communications. Finally, under the Employment Relations and Culture section, the task force noted several areas for improvement dealing with policy and procedure documents, enhanced training for new and current employees in the areas of collegial expectations and relationships, professional development opportunities, and evaluations. Overall, the report's a mix of suggestions for improvement of current operations and processes, as well as a list of suggestions for the future. The document demonstrates a shared commitment to excellence through communication and collaboration, and I am honored to be a part of this great work. And I think we can all look forward to making CSI an even better place to work with these recommendations as a guide. This has been a great process, from the decision to conduct the survey, to the hard work the task force put in analyzing and processing the results, to the next steps we can take together for improvement. In fact, so valuable has this process been that we are planning to conduct the Great Colleges to Work For survey again this year. And this time, we're going to have it open to everybody. The standard protocol for the Great Colleges survey is that they do a random sampling of employees. And we heard loud and clear that more people wanted to have a voice. And so we're going to redo this work with the vendor to provide everyone the access to this survey. So a round of applause for the Great Colleges to Work For task force. Thank you. I don't know of any other sister institution that has taken this step forward. I don't know of any other community college in Idaho that has decided to look inside at itself and honestly appraise performance and opportunities for improvement. And so I'm very proud of CSI. It is who we are. In the introduction, the task force referred to CSI's cultural shift, and Todd mentioned this too, and transition as College of Higher Education overall evolve to respond to shifting areas of funding, workforce development, diversity, the perceived value of higher education, cost to students, and more. We live in an era of heightened awareness and compliance with Title IX and student mental health crises. We're quickly entering, screaming sometimes, the digital age. No institution or agency can avoid being affected. It would be easy, I suppose, to sit back and watch the parade go by, somehow confident that what we do and the way we do it is good enough for tomorrow. It may be easy, but it's not in any way prudent, nor is it what CSI is known for. Our eyes have always been on tomorrow, seeking to best educate and serve our communities. And in this regard, I refer to a recent paper from 2018 by Woodland IQ entitled Education in 2030, 5 Scenarios for the Future of Learning and Talent. This is co-authored by Maria Spies and Patrick Brothers. If you're interested, the Woodland IQ is a simple website, HOLON.com. Anyone know what a Woodland is? Okay, I'll give you a quiz next time. In reading through the 61-page report, I was often struck by feelings I had when reading Brave New World, or I, Robot, or other dystopian futures set in workplaces in the future. I even reflected on watching Star Trek, where learning as we understand it in a traditional sense is replaced by artificial intelligence, digitized libraries, digital tutors, holodecks, and where learning doesn't need person-to-person connection. Remember Data? Okay. It's a world where information is democratized and accessible. The Woodland IQ report discusses a foreseeable and believable future that is only 11 years from now. The report considers the globe, not just one country, in areas of human-machine relations, industry and commerce, and education, to name a few. Those aspects of learning that can evolve into on-demand micro-certifications with proficiency-based outcomes will grow as technology advances. In fact, they are growing right now. The authors write, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decentralized blockchains are considered by many as both threats and opportunities to advancing human potential. The speed and mode of impact will fundamentally reshape major aspects of the education system and perhaps even the way learning occurs. While such learning grows, the authors predict, so too will the things that cannot be learned or apprehended through technologies, namely creativity, leadership, and emotional intelligence, an evolving understanding of why learning matters and how to use it for individual growth and the common good. There it is. At the heart of our humanity is something that can only be learned through experience and interaction. Oh, we can learn about creativity, but we cannot know creativity except by experience, trial, and error, except by learning from those who have traveled this road of humanity a bit more than we have. Even today, if we were simply communicating information, we'd be missing the very heart of what it means to be an educator. The future lies before us, and we will go there. Our future at CSI is about the human spirit, the soul, the inquiring mind, about judgment, ethics, citizenship. It is, I am proud to say, what we have always tried to do. It's what we try to do now, and it's what we will do into the future. Thanks for being a part of this journey where everybody is an educator. Have a good semester. Thank you. HOLONIQ.com, in case you're interested. It's a pretty dense report, but it's very interesting. And speaking of everybody is an educator, it is my opportunity and pleasure to welcome Tiffany Seeley-Case.
Good morning. So last fall, I had the opportunity to be part of the panel discussion that introduced to all of you the theme for the year on everyone being an educator. I am equally as thrilled to be here today to continue that conversation as to how all of us play a role in contributing to the educational environment at CSI. We're going to take some time this morning to reflect back on how that theme developed over the course of last semester, as well as take a look at this semester and how we're going to move that theme onward into a next fantastic 16 weeks. We're going to look back on a little bit of that conversation with a fantastic video that the Center for Instructional Excellence, with the help of a lot of you, have put together to allow us to see what all of you did in all corners of campus to be able to reinforce the idea that everyone is an educator. And with that, we'll turn it over to the Center for Instructional Excellence.
Everybody's an educator? Really? Is that true?
Being an educator is providing resources to students who may not know what's out there on campus.
My favorite part of my job is when I get to talk with students and teach them something they didn't know. Sometimes it's about CTE, like the opportunities they could have in their future career or what the working environment is going to be like.
Are you guys educators?
Oh, we are educators. Yes.
I do believe that we are all educators. We just play different roles when promoting the most responsive and effective education for all our students.
What you say and do, you're teaching people all the time because they are watching and seeing you as an example. An educator at CSI, you know, you're in the classroom, I'm in an office and I do one-on-one, but it's sharing information with students that they need.
And for me, it's mostly in the classroom, but there's a lot of one-on-one also, because I do have students come to me individually and say, hey, I need some help with these things.
So what does it mean to be an educator at the off-campus centers? I think us off-campus centers wear many hats. At the end of the day, I feel that those hats lead to educational opportunities, not just for our students, but for the many community members we serve and the lives we touch.
Well, here at the Help Desk, we help people navigate CSI systems, whether it's My CSI, CSI Connect, logging into the systems, Canvas.
Okay, so when I think of educating, I think of changing lives and getting people on the wellness train.
I look at the relationships that students develop that go beyond what happens between a professor or an instructor and a student, and I'm often in contact with students who rely on each other, who rely on support faculty, who rely on custodians, janitorial staff, managers, and all other people they interact with, and that's part of the whole education experience here.
We all have the responsibility to make that connection with the students to help them reach their educational goals.
I help educate students on the financial aid process. Everything from getting through filling out the application to doing verification and turning in documents. I try to help them find individual solutions to the problem of paying for college, because sometimes that's hard. I try to give them resources and options to help them reach their goals so that they can be able to succeed.
Well, we help them set a course for their life. They have an opportunity to start off on a positive trajectory and become a lot more than they ever thought that they could become.
In everything that we do, we are teaching or we are educating others.
Education doesn't always occur within the four walls of a classroom. Our classroom happens to be outside in nature instead.
So all in all, I think that the custodial department does a very important job in helping out the students and faculty by keeping everything clean and sanitary, safe environment for them to study and work in.
I am not only a custodian, I'm a facilitator, I'm an educator. I help everyone find their way around. If they have questions and I don't know, I find out where I can get the answers.
We all play an integral role in making this college work as a well-oiled machine.
So it seems we're all educators, but we're all learners too, huh?
So I'm a new faculty member, and so I always think that I myself am a student to faculty members who have been here longer than me, and so they're my mentors and my teachers and teaching me.
You might say that my role is to
educate instructors or to inform them. We have mountains of data, and my role is to make sense out of all that for them.
Everybody is an expert at something, and if people have open minds, you know, you can learn something from everybody.
I think probably the most important thing about education is relationships, because it teaches us to work together. And really, together we can do so much when alone we can do so little.
Yes, a great big round of applause and a thank you to all of you who didn't hide in your offices when people were coming around with the video camera. As Tracy said, building those relationships is absolutely fundamental to what we all do in terms of making a connection not only with students, but making a connection with each other, from office to office, from person to person, and being able to do what is best for students with every action that we make on a continual basis. We wanted to continue that idea with a speaker that could talk to you about that motivation, about that passion, about creating those relationships with people. But we just couldn't find anybody. So we decided we had to go to Plan B, and the Office of Institutional Effectiveness said they'd talk about data. And with that, Chris Bragg.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Test. Hey, it worked. Thanks, Tiffany. Appreciate the introduction. I was very concerned when President Fox was introducing you when he was stepping into the next part of the survey, and he was talking about what was going to happen next. I was a little concerned about what was going to happen there. But he did a nice job, and we're happy to have you back this year to talk about what it is to be an educator. And thanks, I need that back. You know, I've had the privilege of working at CSI for more than 25 years, and over that 25 years I've had a number of different jobs, because I apparently can't hold one for very long. So I keep switching from spot to spot, but during the first part of that time, people would say, well, you know, hey, where do you work? And I'd say, I work at CSI, and they'd say, well, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I teach in the communication department. That led always to these really great conversations. Oh, I hated Com 101, it was awful, it was scary, but then I took it was and I loved it, and it was great conversations. Now people say, what do you do at CSI? And I say, I am the Associate Dean of Institutional Effectiveness. And that's pretty much where the conversation ends, typically, right there. That's about the end of it. So, but I do believe that everybody here is an educator. Even in the Office of Institutional Effectiveness, we educate. We spend a lot of time educating, and we educate about exciting stuff. Okay? And it's been mentioned a couple of different times this morning. It's been pointed out a couple of different times. But what I'm here to talk to you about is data. Because data is what makes this place run. Data is what excites you. It's what makes you look forward to coming every morning. I think Tiffany got a hold of my slides before we got going. See, the cool part of the slide right now is that, like, all of the more seasoned folks like me are leaning over to the younger folks going, that's Chandler. There was a show called Friends. And then the people that are sitting next to them are going, hey, that's Winston from New Girl. I love that show. It is so funny. And everyone who has kids is like, oh, I love Monsters, Inc. So I'm trying to get multi-generational here as we go through. Some of you might think this is how you feel about data. This is how data impacts your lives. But I will tell you how we feel about data in institutional effectiveness. This is how we feel about data. We get excited when we talk about data. Institutional effectiveness, it's just fun. Just sit and watch it for a minute. It's kind of fun. Institutional effectiveness, we've got a great team, wonderful people. As was noted a little bit earlier in the awards, our team is led by Terry Woodland. Thank you very much, Terry, for everything that you do. But really, when we talk about everybody being an educator and we look at what that means, we want to take a couple of minutes today to talk to you about a little bit more data that we do have about how all of you are educators. We saw it in the video. Let's look at the impacts that you're having. Always important as an educator to cite your sources. So the source for this is the the Center for Community College Student Engagement. You'll notice that when I hit that button, it makes source like spin in, and it makes the CSE thing spin in. I did that just to irritate Wasden. Mark, where are you? The fact that with PowerPoint you can do things for no reason whatsoever, but they'll spin, so you do it anyway. It's kind of fun. Yeah. So that's just an homage to all the comm faculty who were like, "Are you freaking kidding me? Stop with the obnoxious transitions." So. What I really want to do is just talk to you for a couple of minutes about some data that we get every year from the CCSSE and the Sense survey, where we ask students, hey, how do things work for you at CSI? How's your time here been? One of the questions that is asked on that survey is, did you feel welcome the first time that you came to CSI? And 78.5% of our respondents said, yes, I felt welcome the first time I came to CSI. And with smiling faces like those, who would not feel welcome when they came to CSI? Important to build relationships, and first impressions are hard to overcome. And students are saying that, in general, we're doing a pretty good job, but as the president and as Dr. Schwartz both alluded to, we can always get better. 63.8% responded that a staff member other than an instructor learned their name. Now, when you stop and think about that, students interact with instructors obviously on a day-to-day basis, but they interact with staff too. And the fact that staff members take the time to learn their names, take the time to find out about those people is important. 63.8%, well, how does that factor in? I'll tell you the national average for this is just over 50%. So we do considerably better than the rest of the nation. And I, for one, think that if we all stood around holding bunny rabbits, it would get even better. Either that or it would be really creepy. Not sure.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, what?
Let's take a vote on whether it would be cool or creepy.
How many people think it'd be cool to stand around holding bunny rabbits? See? How many people think it'd be creepy? Yeah, creepy one. Okay, fair enough. Moving on, from an instructional standpoint, again, one of the questions that students are asked is, did an instructor learn your name? Again, seems like a minor thing, but it's a huge thing. It's an important thing for instructors to know who their students are, be able to talk to them one-on-one. 91% of our students reported that at least one instructor learned their name. Interesting enough, we found that this rate is actually a little bit higher in CTE programs, because it's a lot easier in CTE programs to yell, "Hey Todd, don't touch that," than just, "Hey you, don't touch that." So it becomes very important, and you see David practicing that right here. Like, don't pull that. Who knows what might happen? All right. 87.1% reported that they learned the name of at least one other student in most of their classes. The little efforts that faculty go to get students to meet each other, to make a connection, to find somebody in the classroom that they can relate to learn their name. Again, a lot of research shows that's incredibly important to keeping students here on campus and keeping them engaged. So 87.1% of our students report that they learned the name of at least one other student in most classes. I love this question because of the word other. Because I guess we assumed they knew their name. So they learned somebody else's name, which is cool. That's good. That's a step in the right direction. Go. There we go. 93.4% felt that instructors wanted them to succeed. I had the privilege of sitting next to somebody at a dinner a few months ago. And I'm not going to divulge my source here, but it was really interesting to talking to this lady because she's got a degree from Stanford. Has a degree from Stanford, is a graduate of Stanford, but also in sort of the second phase of her life, spent some time at our arch nemesis, at least on the basketball court, which is Salt Lake Community College. We won't go there. But she went to Salt Lake Community College for a while. And in talking to me, she said, you know what I loved about Salt Lake Community College, and you know what I love about community colleges? Is that I got the feeling that everybody at Salt Lake Community College wanted me to succeed. They wanted me to be successful. They wanted me to be able to reach that next goal. They encouraged me. And she said, I got a bachelor's degree from Stanford. And you know what, Stanford? The feeling I had the entire time I was at Stanford was that this was a test. This was a test for me to try to get through. This was a test for me to try to endure. That their job was to weed me out if I wasn't worthy. And she said that was a profound impact to me on the differences in educational philosophies and educational ideas. So 93.4% of instructors feel that instructors want them to succeed. That's huge. That's huge. I mean, good Lord, we're talking about rocks here. Where's Sean? Hi, Sean. Look, they're even looking engaged. They're staring at a rock, and they're like, this is so cool. So, congratulations to Sean and to all of you that make folks feel welcome and want them to succeed. There was a geology joke I could use for Tiffany. I just let it go.
It's time to move on. Moving on. Move on.
Okay. 73.7% of students feel that CSI offers them the support they need to succeed in college. That's everybody here. That's from the first day they walk on campus, that's from getting across campus safely, that's instructors, that's staff, that's feeling like the institution as a whole wants them to succeed, gives them the support that they need. % had a positive evaluation of their overall experience, their educational experience at CSI. This is at the end of their time here. So this is at the end of however many months, weeks, years that they have spent at CSI. 93% had a positive experience. I challenge you to go online and find very many businesses that have a 93% positive evaluation from a random sampling of students or a random sampling of customers at the end of their time here. So again, I think this is something that we can all be proud of. I'm not sure the two gentlemen in the front apparently didn't read the signs about skateboards not being allowed on campus, but we'll get with them later about that. We have their pictures. And finally, 97.4% would recommend CSI to a friend or family member. Again, this is at their end of their time here. This is huge, and this is what I want to end with. That 97.4% of people would say, hey, if somebody was to come to me and say, should I go to CSI? They would say yes. And I think everybody in this room should feel proud of that. Should feel proud that people walk out of here with a positive feeling, with a good impression, and I think you should all give yourself a round of applause for that. And with that, that's the last slide I have, but never fear, I'm not done yet. Still got an hour until breakfast, we're good. We got plenty of time to talk. Actually, we have one more speaker this morning, and I'm super excited to do this. You know how sometimes when we get to these events, we go outside of the area, and we go find somebody that is just super cool, a national level speaker, somebody who we bring in from out of state to come talk to us and share their wisdom about what happens, okay, what's happening across the country, and we have that this morning, and we're super excited. Some of you may recognize this person, she's kind of famous, but all the way from St. Louis, Missouri, down here in the front, coming up with us this morning, Janae Triplet Dewey. And I'll hand the microphone over to Janae.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Chris, for that. Now everybody is going to be super disappointed. They're like, oh, we were getting a national speaker, and it's only Janae. No. So you'll have to excuse me. You know how it is flying on a plane and you get off everybody's illness, and so I've got some congestion going on. So hopefully you can hear what I'm saying, and I don't talk too much. But what I wanted to do is Chris, data is all great and everything, but what are people saying? Those are the things when we get the evaluations back. We look at that. We look at what did the students actually say? They're sitting in the room and we're handing out this survey to them, and yeah, they're marking these bubbles, but what do they actually care to write down? And so one of the things that I found when I was looking for this to kind of celebrate what it is that we're doing, I found this source called findyourniche.com. And I'm like, well, let's type in the College of Southern Idaho and see what people are saying. And, you know, and when you first open up your evaluations, you're a little nervous, you're like, well, what are people saying? And so one of the things that I wanted to just, let me get here, back to my slide. So I typed in the College of Southern Idaho, and I was surprised. I'm like, hey, if this were a Yelp review, I'd go eat here. I really would. I'm like, holy cow, there are 623 reviews of the College of Southern Idaho, and we're getting 4 stars. I would go eat at this place. And so I was like, well, let's see what they're really saying. You know, I'm like, well, we've got excellent, very good, average. I did go look at the poor and the terrible. There aren't that many there, and those were like people who wrote those comments like 4 and 5 years ago, so we don't really have to worry about that so much. But I looked at the, you know, I'm like, well, how many of these 5 and 4 and 3 star reviews did we get this last year? So I looked at them, I'm like, huh, almost 50% were 5 stars, and 44% were 4. That's pretty good. There are a few that were giving us some constructive feedback, you know, in the 3-star range, but that's always valuable. And so I put it all together. I'm like, all right, let's take all this text, these words that all of these students wrote, and let's figure out what they were saying and put it into some context. Because I think that it's really important for us when we're looking at data to also look at the context of what people are saying. So we had 59 reviewers who wrote almost 200 sentences. They put down over 3,000 words that describe their 5 and 4-star experiences at CSI. And you can see right away what people are talking about. The big words that came up were things like help and great. They're talking about their classes. They're talking about their professors. And one of these words that comes up pretty strongly is this word called love. And, you know, sometimes people don't really use that all that often when they're talking about their classes, but they did in this experience. So one of the things, I'm a linguistic analyst, and so I like to take words that are also data and look at what those mean. And one of the things that I do is I use a tool called a keyword in context. So I want to find out the context of these words such as college or great or this other word called help, and figure out what the context of was, you know, that students were talking about when they're talking about us as a college. And I just want to read to you just a few of these and give you a feel for the context of what people are saying. And they're like, well, I like the staff and how nice they were and how happy they were to help me with any question that I had. I mean, that's a big deal that people took the time to write that on this niche.com that they'd had no motivation really to participate in. Here's a couple other ones. I love, and they put the caps there, I didn't do that. I love the campus. Everything is so pretty and well kept. I love this school, exclamation point. They are making returning after 13 years easy to do. Here's another one. I love that it offers students a quiet place to study and encourage students to go to campus to study. And here's one more. College of Southern Idaho goes way beyond the normal help. They would like to see people get a degree and a job even if you are homeless. The resources they offer are very helpful. And here's kind of a long one, but I think this encapsulates this entire context of all the reviews that I was reading. It's like the College of Southern Idaho is an amazing junior college. It has a community-based feel and small classroom sizes. I loved all of my professors along with their time and effort put towards my education. I've learned so much academically and about life. I have really enjoyed my time at CSI, and I'm a little sad that I am graduating, but I'm excited to see where the college will go in the years to come. That pretty much, when we were talking today and hearing all of the messages, one of the things that this slide kind of encapsulates this whole, where we've been, what this student experience is, and then how they are excited to see us also grow in the things that we'll be able to do in the future. I wanted to just kind of remind everyone that when, I was picking out these words and looking and focusing on, what these stories were telling us, that they're talking about great and like and love and help. And these are really heartful and deep emotions that we are able to do as a group and have an impression on, students. And so I wanted us just to kind of have a group participation here. I'm not going to ask you to stand up because we don't need to do that, but I would like you to raise your hand and just show how each one of us is participating in some of these things. So I want you to know that you're great if you're staff. Who all here is staff? Raise your hand. Look around. We are great. And how about if we are an instructor, if we're a professor, raise our hand. The students are calling you great, and that is a big deal. What about, if we are involved in determining what the class sizes are, and that would be our department chairs, and those are really kind of challenging decisions. And it's also our, leadership team. They're trying to determine what our class sizes are, but raise your hand because the students are really impacted by how we're determining what the class sizes are. They said over and over again, and we'll move then to the next one, how they like and love the small class sizes because it does help them to develop the relationships with their instructors, with their peers as students. And how many of you, we kind of have already acknowledged, but how many of you are involved in making this campus beautiful? And I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about the custodial staff and also the grounds crew, but how many of you every day sometimes will notice something walking on the sidewalk and you pick up some trash and maybe throw it away? I mean, we all are doing these things to make our campus beautiful. Again, the students are liking sports. Who are all involved in sports? We're liking our professors, the staff, the activities. And I think we can all raise our hand because we're all people, but the students say that they love and like us as people. The students mentioned over and over again in this site that and they described the help that they were receiving, the help that they got from the staff, the professors. They mentioned quiet places were very helpful. They mentioned the different classes and the different campuses that were available to them. They mentioned that online classes are extremely helpful and a lot of the resources. And they also mentioned that how the transfer credits were also available to them. But one of the things when we were kind of wrapping up and I was looking at this analysis of all of these words that people were saying about us as a group, they really appreciated and found it extremely comforting to them that they were able to come to this college and receive help to help them achieve their goals. And that was one of the things that I thought was extremely important. So when we're talking about this data, and I know that Chris's group loves it, and I love data too, but I think it's also important to look at the context of where students are talking about us, and they are saying some wonderful things. So I wanted us to celebrate that experience that, even though, right now it's kind of the middle of the semester and we just got freezing rain and we're like, oh my gosh, we've got 1 week to get ready for classes again. These are words that people were saying, and they're out into the world that talk about how great, how they liked and loved being here at CSI and how they found this environment very helpful. So after that, I will turn my time back over to Tiffany.
Thank you, Janaea. So I think it was in the fall when Dr. Pate, I believe, mentioned on the panel discussion that we were happening that each student that we encounter is on his or her own educational trajectory, right? And when we encounter those students on that trajectory, we have so much power to influence where that student is going to go. And I think everything that we've heard today, from the data points to the stories to the relationships, indicate that when we take the time to make sure that trajectory is positive, students can do anything, and we can take so much pride in the fact that we help them do that. And so a great big round of applause to all of you for doing everything that Janaea was just talking about over the course of our time together. That said, I have been reliably informed that I am the only thing standing in between you and breakfast. So with that, I wish you a very happy new year and an outstanding start to the semester. It's going to be a great spring 2019, so we wish you the very best. Welcome back.